Hello and welcome to the first project video for C Sharp. So in this video we're going to go through not loads but a few things. I'm not going to do it slowly because this isn't supposed to be for your first venture into programming. And I'm just going to show you the main differences really between sort of how we did things in Python and how we do things in C Sharp. Now sometimes they seem a bit longer in C Sharp, but that's just because the way C Sharp is. Python makes everything very simple and that is good in its own way. But you'll just get used to the nuances, and just remember a lot of what you see you make your own versions of anyway, or do differently in the real world. And there we go. So I've created a blank console project. If you don't know how to do that, then go back to the video number 1. This is the first proper one of teaching how to code it. So I'm going to delete this, even though I'm going to talk about console write line. So here we are. So this is a completely blank project. We'll do absolutely nothing while the excitement of nothing happening. There we go. So obviously you can see there that we write to the console window by typing console and then doing a dot. Now I'm not going to get into this right now, but what you've got, but you will see sometimes, you might see, well, look, class system.console. Now if you're really quite a sharp person, I'm avoiding the C sharp pun there, you might have noticed that we've got a thing called using system. If we didn't have that using system, we would actually have to write system.console, which we could do, dot write line, and it would still work. So I'm just going to very quickly explain what that using system does. Essentially, what using system does means that we're telling the computer that we're actually going to use the namespace, which we'll get more into later, called system. So we actually don't have to write the word system before everything we use. It's going to check that beforehand. So I'm just going to put using system back in, which I'm just going to undo because I don't want all this anyway. Oh no, I'm going to go there. So that's what using system does. Now, so as I write console, and we'll go through the concept of a class, and you might think, why don't you explain it now? It seems really important, because it's very long. It is not quick to do, but you must understand that C Sharp is a different type of programming language to Python in some ways, and we'll get to that later. Anyway, so look, first step, a much better thing in Visual Studio that you will have noticed. So as we write console dot, because we're doing stuff to the console window, that terminal window that comes up, you can see here that we've got a lot of things. Now there's a lot of stuff here, and you can see that we can change things like background color and other things like that. We can check certain things. These are variables that are stored inside it, essentially. I mean, you can think of them that way. We'll get to what they are later. But basically, that would allow me to check if caps lock was on, for example. I could test that. Okay. I could look at it. It's a Boolean. That's what bool stands for. And it will be true or false. And if caps lock on, that will be true. And caps lock off, that will be false. And I could check by getting that value. So there are lots of things I can do. You can see here these things here. If I hover over them, they're like methods, or you would think of them as procedures, sub-programs that are part of console. So I can do that. I've never done that. I'm going to assume it makes a beep. Okay, you may not hear it at your end. It did. It made a beep. What do you do? Obviously, just to be clear, I don't ever use the console in my programming. I mostly write games, which never use the console, and anytime I've done any other big projects, I would use a Windows project. So I don't really use the console very much, but it's a great learning tool, the console, because it takes away all the other stuff. I learnt in a much older system where things were a bit different, and so I was already a programmer before C Sharp even existed. So I didn't really need to sort of learn the same way you're learning, because it was just very similar to other languages. I just had to look a little different and make a few changes. Anyway, so we've seen console. You've got console.writeLine. Okay, there's various other things in there. Now I'm going to be really honest with you. I have no idea how to set the background color, and I deliberately didn't look it up. So I want to show you the process of how I would figure that out. So I can see here that basically I can get or set. Now you see it says get or set. That means I can retrieve the background color and I can set it. If we go to caps lock and hover over it, you can see I can only get it. So that means I can't set that value. I can't do this. That will not turn Now, first of all, I hope you notice that you have semicolons at the end of every line. That will not turn caps lock on, and that's why I've got a big underline. If I try to run it, it's going to give me an error. No, it's going to say, do you want to run the line? There were build errors. What that means is, do you want to run it from the last one that worked? I'm not going to do that. And it's going to look, property or indexer, caps lock cannot be assigned to, it is read only. And we know that because it says get, okay? I can only find out what that is. So I could do, for example, console.writeLine that, okay? So I can get the variable. I'm going to print it to the screen. So I'm going to tell you now that my caps lock is off, so that should print false. Okay, now I'm going to turn caps lock on, and that should print true. There we go. So I can get access whether caps lock's on or not. I don't know how useful that would be in life. Maybe if you're doing a password entry, you could say, oh, do you know you got caps lock on? You know, something like that. But I can only read from that, okay? And that we want to get into, notice now I'm being a bit more professional with how I talk to you, about how you've got to start learning these things here. And I won't go to these 17 overloads or anything like that. We'll keep it simple. But you need to learn how this works. Because here's an example. I have no idea how to set the background colour. So I'm going to go background colour. Okay, hover over it. Now, I'm going to set it to something, so I'm going to do equals, right? Now, I don't know what do I set it to. Do I do like red? I very much doubt I do red. Or something like that. But I don't know. So I'm going to show you how I find that out. Okay, so I'm just going to try that. I know it's not going to work because it's gone red. So you see here, it says, and you've got to learn this because it's really good to start to work out things when I'm not around. You could Google this, obviously. I could just Google this. Here we go. Cannot implicitly, and that means without being, implicit means I cannot just assume C# going to convert it for me. Okay. Cannot implicitly convert type string yet to system.console color. Right. So clearly there is a variable type or something like that called system.console color. Right. So if I type system.console color, notice the annoying American spelling. It defines a foreground and background color. It's an enum. Now, it's getting very confusing. Don't want to get too much into this. But enums are basically like where you can declare words to represent something. So, for example, north, south, east, west. We could make a thing called like so we could represent north, south, east, west by 0, 1, 2, 3, but we write the words north, south, east, west. But you can see here, and I could have done this here by the way. I didn't need to write this out. Actually, could I do it there? No, it didn't let me do it there. So I've written out console color there, and I can click on that console color. And now you can see I've got the console colors. Okay, so I could do the numbers, right? Or I could do, now just to be clear, it might think all the colors aren't there. You've got to understand that C# doesn't make this. Windows is a console program, and Windows consoles only support these colors, right? So I can use any of these colors, okay? And I would write it, look, console color dot dark yellow. I could also write the number 6. Console color dot dark yellow will be that color. So by the way, I've opened a new file here. For some reason it does the tabs really weirdly like this, so I can go back and forth. Often they're next to each other, but for some reason it's done it over there. So I can close that. I can now go in here and do console color dot, and I've got a list of the colors, so I'm going to make it blue. Right, and that's a great little example in how to learn things. Now you need to start to learn what the errors mean and what these things mean. Okay, now I won't go into what these 18 mean, but you can see that there's lots of different things you can do here. But anyway, we'll go through that slowly. But there we go. So I'm going to put hello, and then I'm going to put a semicolon at the end of each of these lines because I've forgotten, and run it. And now you're going to see that the background is blue. Wow, the excitement of background blue. The point is though that I'll be honest with you, I'd done this before. But it was good to show you the process of when I first did this, how I went through this process of figuring it out. I didn't Google. I could have Googled for this in 2 seconds. But it's always good to start looking. So obviously then you start thinking, right, we've got foreground colour. Okay, and also that's also going to be a console colour. You can see how I can click on these things and I can get the console colours up again. Okay, and I can have a look. Get into that habit, close that down. It's up there still. My program's up there. Just remember as well, if you don't ever get completely lost, it's a bit confusing, but let's say I do close this. You're like, the project's closed. That was the file. In these things there are projects, and you can see over here that basically you want to go to program, and then if I click on program, it will come back up here, and I can close it, and then click on it again, and I can go to different parts of it. There we go. And I can, anyway, console.color. pile of dots, sorry. Let's do dark magenta. Strange choice of colours that whoever designed Windows decided was the colour needed to have. Wow, look at that excitement. But there you go. You've seen that. I learnt that, I did learn it the first time, by literally just seeing what the option was for console.